What's up, my friends, meus amigos? How are you? This is a new episode of the Adults Table. Today, we're going to have a different format of episode talking about different topics and having more of a conversation versus just diving deeper into one topic. And we started today with no one else, no one other. Okay, great. No one other than Bad Bunny himself, the man. He just started his residency in Puerto Rico. He's gonna have Puerto Rico. Thank you. He's gonna have what I think like probably 30 shows or something like that. And first of all, I'm very sad because I tried to buy those tickets and I think they sold out in 30 seconds, which is ridiculous. But I now entered two contests, one by Adidas and one by Ritz, like the crackers. And for a second, I'm like, maybe I'll win. Maybe I'll win because fun fact about me, and this, I feel like this is the fun fact that I always use in like company stuff, company meetings, when people go around and say, icebreaker, say a fun fact about yourself. And I say, I've met Justin Bieber 4 times. And why am I mentioning Justin Bieber? We're talking about Bad Bunny. Um, I once won a national contest in Brazil to go to a Justin Bieber concert in LA, which is so funny because there were, I think, because it was national-wide, I think there were like hundreds of thousands of people that participated in the contest. And this is back in 2010. So, like, radio was, I guess, I don't know. It's that moment that you have radios having contests of everything and giveaways and whatnot. And this one, you had to pretty much record a video saying, I think it was actually was 2 parts. The first one was you had to record a video saying why you love Justin Bieber, something like that. And then the first phase was votes. So people could go there and vote. And it was so funny because I was what, 20, like 15 back then? I don't know, around that age. And what we did, me and my friends, we created like a PowerPoint, like a slideshow, and we went to from classroom to classroom teaching people how to vote for me. Like what the I like this is I would never do this today. You know what I'm saying? Like the nerve, the boldness of just walking in a classroom and being like, "Hey guys, my name is Fernanda. I'm in this contest to go see Justin Bieber, and I would love if you could vote for me. This is a step by step." Like we need this type of attitude and energy. And, like today I feel like I'm so ashamed of putting myself out there. And younger me was just going classroom to classroom, teaching people how to vote for me. So it was really funny because then that was the first step of the process. And then the second step was based on creativity. So they had like a panel, and I think that I don't know if you had to record another video or if it was the same video. I think it was the same. And then this panel would vote for the most creative amongst, I think it was 10 finalists. And then they voted and they selected me. And the reason I'm telling this, maybe you're like, I don't care about Justin Bieber, but the reason that I'm telling you this is that when it comes to manifestation and manifesting something, and I was trying to manifest those Bad Bunny tickets, maybe I'll still get them. I don't know. Adidas, if you're listening to this, I know you are because this podcast is huge, right? Thousands and thousands of listeners. But yeah, take your girl to the concert. I would be very happy. But um, it's funny because I feel like back in the Justin Bieber days and when I won this contest, which again was such a freaking, it was insane because hundreds of thousands of people were participating. But when I won that contest, I really manifested that. And it's crazy because if you've done that before, now stepping aside from like the romanticized talk about manifestation and everything you see on, oh, creative vision board, like all the superficial content around manifestation. But it is so powerful when you get to a stage and to a vibration, like a vibrational, what do you call it, like a place that for sure there's nothing that makes you doubt the fact that you're gonna get what you want. Like I was in this place that I was like, I don't care who tells me that I'm not gonna get this. I know for sure that I'm gonna get it. Like it was certain in my heart. It was like I was so sure of it. And the funny part is that the whole contest was to go to Anaheim to go to a concert there. So not to meet Justin Bieber, not to see him like face to face, but just to go to the concert. And I told my mom, I was like, Mom, I'm gonna win this. And by the way, shout out to my mom because I only had this mindset because my mom raised me to be that way. She always told me like, you can do anything, your words have power, your thoughts have power. So, go after what you want. But I told my mom, I said, I don't know what's gonna happen, but I am going to see Justin Bieber in Los Angeles because I wanted to go to the Staples Center, see him there. I knew that the concert was gonna be bigger. So I told my mom, I said, I don't know what's going to happen, but I am going to see him in LA and I'm going to meet him. And my mom was like, can you just be happy with the fact that, you're going to go to Anaheim? And I was like, Mom, I'm happy. I'm very happy, but something is going to happen. I don't know what it is. I don't have to know what it is, but I'm going to go see him in LA and I'm going to meet him. So I kid you not, the next day, Universal Music calls my mom, who was, like sponsoring the contest. And they call my mom because I was underage, right? So they just couldn't, And then they call my mom and they say, we have bad news and we have good news. Bad news is that we no longer have tickets for the Anaheim concert, but to make up for it, we got tickets for the Staples Center and we got meet and greet passes to just make up for it. Dude, my mom, while she's on the phone, she looks at me and she's just like in disbelief. She's like, what the fuck? And she tells me, she's like, okay, this is what's going to happen. And at that moment, I just lost it. I'm like, it insane. So I ended up going to both concerts because I got there and I'm like I said, I'm going to go to both. I don't know how it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. I ended up going to both concerts. I went to the meet and greet with Justin Bieber in Los Angeles. I also went to the meet and greet in Anaheim, and I also saw him after recording his Never Say Never. It wasn't like the official music video, but it was one for, I think, the baseball league. I don't know, something like that. But it was outside of a baseball stadium, and I saw him there, and it was really awesome. Again, 15 years ago? It's been forever, but my point with this whole story is, first of all, to share because I think it's an awesome story, but it's also to talk a little bit about manifestation because it's insane what your mind can do, and it's insane the reach of, like, I don't know, where you can get to when you train your mind for that. But I do think it's very little things in life that we are willing to give the mental energy and the dedication and the, I don't know, the what it takes basically, right, to manifest something. So that being said, I don't know if my manifestation is strong enough to win Bad Bunny tickets this time around. I hope that it is, but I'm trying to get myself in that mind state. Like I'm listening to his like his concerts live and just like imagining myself there. And there's so many things. I'm not going to make this episode about manifestation, but I truly deeply believe in it because this has happened to me before, not only in this instance, but other instances as well. So it's interesting. That being said, Bad Bunny's concert is amazing. If you haven't seen it, like if you haven't seen the structure that he built for this particular concert, and I think it's like 35 songs. It was like a 3-hour concert. I'm like, how is this man gonna do it for 30 days or however long he's gonna do it in PR? But anyways, beautiful structure. It's beautiful. The setup is amazing. The set list, oh my freaking god! Like he added some songs there from like very old songs and obviously all the new songs, and it's beautiful. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But going back to Justin Bieber, I also want to talk about Justin Bieber today because he also just came out with, not also because Bad Bunny didn't come out with his album now, but he came out with his new album Swag, I think it's called, yesterday. And I want to talk about Justin Bieber for a second because other than the 8 minutes that I already spent talking about Justin Bieber and my experience meeting him, which by the way, he's always been darling. He's always been so nice, and I've never had a single bad experience with him. I met him, I think, twice more or once more after this event that I talked about, and he's always been very nice. But he came out with this new album. I just listened to the album as I was getting ready for this podcast, and first of all, I love it. I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. I think there's a lot of the like that Justin Bieber does that is just like so him, and I freaking love it. It brings me back to like 2010 and I think that's amazing. And I love the songs. I think he did a great job. But what I want to talk about around this topic, around the Justin Bieber topic, is how insane the internet has gone and in the past few months in regards to Justin Bieber. And I want to talk about something that we often do as humans that we have to watch out for, which is this need that we have of being the saviors, right? So in the past few months, the whole internet has been so worried about Justin Bieber and his health and his mental health. And I understand why. Okay, I understand why. I understand that based on what he's been posting recently and how he's been seen in public, I understand that, people might be concerned in some level. But what annoys me is when people say that, oh, the media did this to Justin Bieber. The media. And yes, the media has been a pain in the ass for as long as we can remember. It's not only with Justin Bieber. Look what the media has done with all of the artists, especially the artists that grew up in the public eye, right? It's really fucked up, honestly. And when it comes to paparazzi and things like that, like, dude, how do you live a life like that? It is, it's sad, like that part of fame and that part of being a celebrity, especially being a celebrity as big as Justin Bieber. So that's a fact. But here's one thing that has happened in the past, what, decade, or I don't know, however long. The media is not anymore the only source and medium of communication between us and artists, right? So we don't need that middle figure, that middle person to communicate and create a relationship with artists. We can also go out there and see their social media. We can also, they can talk directly to us and we can talk directly to them. And that's beautiful. As a fan, it's amazing, right? It's great. But at the same time, we also then become responsible for the things that we put out online and the opinions that we share and the things that we say. So the responsibility of all of this pressure around an artist and all of this, I don't know, like people invading his personal life or whatever, it's not just the media's. It's also the responsibility of every single person who opens up their goddamn mouth to give an opinion about an artist's life. Oh, but they're a public person. It doesn't matter. Like the moment that you share your opinion about something and that you reinforce a narrative, then it's also on you. It's not only on the media. So if you're a person who you're like, oh my gosh, I feel so bad for Justin Bieber. I'm so worried about Justin Bieber. But you're out there contributing to the narrative of, oh, he doesn't he doesn't love his wife. He likes his ex-girlfriend better. And you're giving opinions around like, oh, is he okay? Is he not okay? What's going on? And then you post a video and then you share a video. Like, if you're a part of this narrative, or for example, with the Diddy situation, I gotta I gotta breathe a little bit because I get passionate. Okay, this is not me. Like it's just me getting passionate. But with the Diddy situation, I got so annoyed because people started assuming and sharing the fact that Justin Bieber was part of that with such certainty that it's like, bro, if this happened, what favor do you think you're doing to this person by sharing this with the world and talking about how awful it is multiple times without even knowing if it's true? Number one. And number two, if it is true, like, do you think that it's a positive thing to talk about? What do you think the impact of that is? So we mask, our need to talk about people's lives with this worry, with this mask of concern because it sounds good, right? Oh, I'm concerned, therefore I have all the rights to talk about it. But you don't have the rights to talk about it. Like the speculation also is also like detrimental not only to the artist's image, but to their mental health. So I cannot stand people who just blame the media, which, yes, they also have their part to blame for and their responsibility, and they should be held accountable. But also, as someone who participates in social media, you have to be very responsible about the things that you share. And I think with Justin Bieber, people just completely lost like the senses of what's okay and what's not. And one thing that I also want to talk about, because I think this, going more on like our lives in that perspective versus just celebrities, is this position that we occupy when we say that we're worried about someone. Okay, because here's the thing: I think we have to be compassionate with people. I think we have to be empathetic. I think we have to be willing to help them when they ask for help. I think we have to be, all of these things, all of the above. But I think sometimes we get to this position in life that we look at another person's life and we interpret that person's life from where we stand. So we take the conclusion that, oh my gosh, they're not happy. They're not this, they're not that. So I start taking conclusions based on my life, based on what I think is right for me, completely disregarding that maybe for that person, it's not that bad, or it's not, something that you think would be good for them is not that good. So when you look to another person's life and you're just overwhelmed with worry because you're like, oh my gosh, I have to save this person. Oh my gosh, this person cannot be like this. You're, first of all, again, disregarding the fact that people are different and lives are different. And by looking at the person like this, you're putting yourself in a superior position. That's why pitying someone is the worst thing that you can do. The worst thing, because it's disrespectful. Because when you give someone your pity, I don't know how to how to talk about this, but when you do this, what you're saying is, I stand in a superior stage than you, completely disregarding that you don't know everything about the other person's life, that you don't know what they have to go through in their lives to go through their own individuation process and the own process of becoming their own self. You're just so addicted to the same idea of what a good life is, that any other types of life just to you sounds crazy. It's like, no, this cannot happen. But sometimes, number one, it's not even that bad for the person, and number two, it's what they need. So we have to be very careful about how we express this quote unquote concern that we have. And then the second thing that we do is that by expressing this concern and by putting yourself in the position of, oh my gosh, it's on me to save this person, you get to the savior role. And this role, my love, it's crazy because you feel like you're the most special and important person in the world. You think that you have the power of saving someone's life. And again, you do have the power of helping them go through things. You do have the power of supporting them through difficult times. You do have the power to, during a very difficult time, maybe the love that you give to that person or whatever they need at the moment does help them get out of a very shitty situation. So we do have the power of that, and it's beautiful. But to think that you're the savior, to think that you're God, to think that, oh my gosh, I have the power to change this person's life completely, when sometimes they don't even want that to be changed. Or when sometimes, again, they have to go through that, to go through their individuation process. So we have to start respecting people more and stop projecting our concern and our need to be the savior. When you're the savior, or when you have this idea that you're the savior, again, you think you're so special. Your ego loves that. Your ego loves that. Because you're like, oh my gosh, look how important I am, right? So we become addicted to this feeling of feeling like we matter that much. We can be saviors, and then we want to save everybody else. And we sometimes end up contributing in a negative way. Because even Justin Bieber, I think there's a song called Therapy Session or something like that. And he's talking about the fact that the people's concern make him question, like, is there something bad with me? Like, what is going on? So he even talks about how this overwhelming concern from people has a negative impact on him. So at the end of the day, if you do care about this person, you should care more about their well-being than about your need of expression, your expressing your concern, or expressing how much you care, or expressing how much you want to save them. He's saying himself, the negative impact that that concern has been on top of him, and like all of the, it's almost like a pressure to always be fine. So I think we have to be more accountable for the things that we put out, on social media, and we have to start seeing artists as people, and we have to start seeing people as flawed humans They don't have to be happy all the time. They have to go through their own thing to grow and expand. And we have to respect that versus wanting to save them all the time. Right. So that's why whenever someone says, like, oh, I'm so worried about so and so, I'm so concerned about so and so, I'm going to tell you, like, 80% of the time, it's just the person projecting and trying to find a problem for them to solve so they feel good about themselves. So let's be careful with that position. So that's Justin Bieber, and that's just a conversation around um, worry and concerns. Now, the other thing, so today, look at me just like jumping around in different topics, but this is the purpose of today's episode. This morning, I did my long run. We go from Justin Bieber to marathon training. I just did my long run this morning, and I'm training for the Chicago Marathon, and it's my first marathon, and I'm very excited about it. But also part of me is like, why did I decide to do this? Because training is just like, it's too much, and I haven't even fully started it. I'm still running like 5 miles, you know. But what I was thinking about this week is how our minds work and how much like and I think this also connects a little bit to the manifestation conversation in the beginning of the podcast. But it's crazy to me how our mind works, and I feel like marathon training really shows you that firsthand. What I mean by that is this week I had a 30-minute run, and when I opened up my training app, I was like, is there something wrong? Like, why am I just gonna run 30 minutes? That seems like not enough. I don't think that's a lot. Like, that's the same as just going on a walk. What is this? And then it's so crazy how when you're training for something like a marathon, so you have in your mind, you have like 42 kilometers. That's the number in your mind. Running 30 minutes is nothing. You're like, this is nothing. But when you're just starting running, or when you're running or training for shorter races, 30 minutes might be a lot. If you're training for just a 3-mile run, like a 5K, that's a lot, you know? So, what I keep thinking throughout this process of marathon training is how, because the number in your mind now is this specific number, this 42K, or I think what is it, I don't even know what it is in miles, then your bar also changes as to what you're willing to endure, and your bar also changes emotionally and psychologically. Like, it's not just your body becomes more prepared for it because you're training, therefore it should feel easier, but also because your target is so far away, you're like, okay, 5K is not a lot, 10K is not a lot, 20K is not a lot. Like, running a half marathon is not a lot for someone who's training for a full marathon. So I keep thinking about this and about the power of our minds. And I keep thinking, okay, if we start setting up higher goals, and we start believing that we can do more, then does that change our process of enduring the process? Like, does that change our resilience throughout the process, versus kind of selling yourself short and thinking of like smaller goals? Then, yeah, what you can endure might be also less compared to that. So, I don't know. I've been learning a lot through marathon training, and I'm curious if you run marathons, what are your thoughts are. I want to interview a friend of mine who runs ultra marathons, because I think that's, first of all, that's completely nuts. You run like 100 miles. Like, what the actual fuck? Seriously, part of my French. But like, that to me is insane. And we've had some good conversations around why he does it, and what the process has taught him. So I want to have a conversation with him for the podcast. But the reason why I started doing this, and I also want to share because I know that I've seen a lot of people that want to start running, but they're like, oh, it's not for me. I can't run, or I get tired super easily. And every now and then I post on TikTok about some quick tips around it. I know it's become like, more popular over the years, and that's a great thing. But um, the reason why I decided to run a full marathon this year is that I wanted to do something like purposefully do something that was hard and that required a lot of discipline in the process. Hear me out. So, nowadays, we are very used to rewards being instant. This is how we're trained now. Okay. So, you're hungry, you can open an app and you order your food, and it's going to be in your doorstep in 30 minutes. 30 minutes. You don't even have to go down to get your food, okay? Because someone's gonna go up if you're in an apartment building like me, and they're just gonna drop it off by your door, okay? Great. No effort there, just opening your app. You need to go from point A to point B, you just call a car, right? You go in Uber, you call your car, you're gonna be there. Your car is gonna be here in 5 minutes. If it's 7 minutes, we cancel. If it's 8 minutes, we cancel. 10 minutes, no thanks, right? Everything's so quick. You want a date? Okay, great. You can open an app and you can see hundreds of people that also want a date. So you can just swipe, swipe, swipe. And if there's, you don't like this person anymore, you can swipe on somebody else. Everything is so instant right now. There's no hurdles, there's no roadblocks to getting things. We work so hard to eliminate the friction and every discomfort of the process of getting things that we want. Look at Amazon, look at like e-commerce. To me, it's insane. And I don't know if people in the US realize how insane this is. The fact that the return process, for example, is so frictionless. Like you can get stuff online and you can return them in the Whole Foods that's 1 block away from your house. You don't even have to talk to anyone. You just scan a code. You don't even have to have a box. You don't even have to have a box. You just bring whatever you bought and then you scan it and then you put it in the machine or you talk to someone if you want and then they do it for you. That's insane. Oh, if there's no Whole Foods nearby, you can go to a UPS. You can go to this, you can go to that. There's so much that makes this process so frictionless that it encourages you to consume more. Because if it's not going to be a hurdle to return this, then you have no reason not to buy it, right? So again, everything is so instant. The rewards are so instant. And what that generates is an idea that things are supposed to be that way, right? And I feel like more and more these are the expectations that we create, that things should be easy. And if they are not easy, it's because it's wrong. We're in the wrong place, we're with the wrong people. This is the wrong choice because it shouldn't be this hard. But my love, it should be, like great, it's fine. Let's remove friction from day-to-day stuff, but things have a price. And we have to train our brains to understand that there's a price to pay to get to the places that we want, to become the people that we want to become. And if we don't train ourselves in that, we don't endure the process. And if we don't endure the process, we don't get there. So it's funny to me that we keep removing friction, but we also keep raising the levels of anxiety in this society and humanity because the expectations are so off. So I think it's so important that we proactively put ourselves in situations in which we have to exercise the muscle of resilience, endurance, of understanding that, yes, I can do hard things. And yes, I understand and I agree with the price that things have. So if you want to run a marathon, you can't just show up to the race, the day of the race, without having gone through a training program. Chances are that you're going to fuck yourself, basically, right? You're going to have an injury. You can run like 4 hours and a half unprepared. And that whole process, that's why they say too that the marathon is the process, it's the training, it's not the race, the day of the race. The process is one that really requires discipline. It requires you waking up super early, waking up earlier on the weekends, because you got to run before the sun rises. You're going to be running for 2 hours. The sun's going to come up and it's going to be really hot. So, things like that. It requires you to watch what you eat, what you drink. You have to start saying no if you're a person who likes to go out really late. I know some crazy people that in the past just didn't give a shit. They would go out and like get back home at 4 a.m. and then run at 7. But come on, this person was like 22. If you're like 30 plus like me, we cannot do that, right? So you have to start saying no to things, saying no to people. You have to start showing up for yourself because it's not only about running. You also have to do strength training, if you don't want to hurt yourself through the process. So you have to constantly be choosing to honor that commitment with yourself versus choosing comfort. You have to constantly choose the discomfort. But then at the end of the day, and not only at the end, not only when you run the race, but also when you start running, like you go, I don't know, you go do your long run today. 30 minutes in, that runner's high is going to kick in and you're going to feel amazing. You're going to feel like you're seeing God because this is what it feels like, right? You feel like the unity. It's so beautiful. But when that hits, you're like, I am so glad that I came. I'm so glad that I'm here. I'm so glad that I, decided to wake up at 5 in the morning or whatever time you run. Like this friend of mine, the ultra marathonist, he runs at like 11 p.m. Insane. But whatever time you go, you're like, I'm so glad that I did this. So, but to get to this, you have to pay the price, which is to pick discomfort over the comfort of just staying in bed or. So, I am all about us making conscious choices to train our brains to endure the process of things and the price that we have to pay to get what we want. And more than ever, I feel like this is important because we are going to keep being trained to believe that things are easy. This is going to continue to happen. Now with AI, even more. Now with AI, you don't even have to know how to write, like to write an essay because there's somebody else to do it for you. Like in this case, a little AI bot, right? So if you don't choose to engage in these types of activities that require something for you, your idea of life is just going to shift completely. And that's fine. The world's changing, it's shifting. So, yeah, some things we just have to adapt versus, fight against it. But I still think, and I fully believe that things have a price. And the most beautiful things in life, they're not easy. So, do hard things, basically, is my point. That being said, let's see what else we can talk about. I'm trying to kind of find ways to connect all the points, but I'm just going to throw them in there. The other thing that I want to talk about today is I watched this Nara Smith interview with Jay Shetty and okay, from marathon training to Nara Smith. So I watched this interview with her recently and I was very surprised in a positive way. I've seen her content before many times and I've gone through phases in which first I thought that this is great content. This is like actually good recipes. It's awesome to see, someone making things from scratch in a country that everything's so processed. So that's awesome. And I really enjoyed. I followed her and that was it. And then I had other times that I got annoyed at her content. And I was like, why is she reinforcing a narrative that women should be this way when she wasn't really, but just her being, I'm like, this really helps and contributes to the narrative of women should be this way. Women should be in the kitchen. Women should be cooking for their husbands. Women should be doing this. And if you also have this opinion on her, I highly encourage you to watch this interview with Jay Shetty. And if you don't know who she is, I mean, just look it up, basically. But she's considered by many people a trad wife, which even in this episode in this podcast, she argues against it and why she isn't a trad wife. But basically, the traditional sense of what a wife is or should be, following gender roles. And okay, she's the one who's in the kitchen and she's cooking with this amazing outfit, super expensive dresses. And I was very impressed by her and I loved her interview because first of all, she's 23 years old, which is insane to me how young she is, especially for the level of maturity that she has. You hear her talk and you're like, "Oh, she's only 23." It's crazy. And she talks about, the fact that she's a working mom. She like content is her job. Sometimes she's 7 hours in the kitchen creating content. Sometimes, and she travels every week. She's also a model. She's all of these things. And she talks about how she and her husband actually split all of the chores in their home. So she talks about like her upbringing and all these things, and which I thought was very interesting. But what I want to talk about, what I want to mention, and the reason why I wanted to bring this up is I feel like this is also a little bit connected to what I talked about Justin Bieber and just us being worried, is that it is crazy how quickly we are to judge someone by what we see and by what we want to believe. Most of us don't want to understand things. We don't want to have conversations. We don't want to have discussions. What we want to do is find ways to reinforce and confirm what we already believe. So I have this belief in mind, I have this idea of what something is or should be, and everything external from me needs to validate that opinion that I have. If it doesn't, I'm going to try to convince it otherwise. And if it doesn't, I'm just going to find a way of saying that actually it reinforces what I believe. So that's the problem with, I feel like, today, and the lack of conversations that we have, because we are so worried about not changing our minds that we don't open them up to new ideas and maybe, yeah, being challenged and completely changing the way that you see something and what you believe. We're so protective to what we believe that we don't listen to other people or the reality of that particular situation. So with her, I think it's so clear how much we do this. We just say whatever. We just say whatever we want to say about her life. And that's the same with Ballerina Farm as well. I was annoyed when the whole thing with her husband happened because we also see these women and we act as if, and we talk about them as if they weren't adults. And I hate that. I think that's a way, it's completely disrespectful. Again, going back to the, oh, I'm so worried about so and so. Like, you look at this person in such a superiority, in a place of like, yo, I'm better than you because I can see things that you can't. And like, you are this person who's just completely manipulated. It's like, no, this person is an adult. They make their own choices. And we have to start seeing adults as adults, and understanding that they can make choices and deal with the consequences of their choices. So although I understand the and I think it's important to have the conversation around, okay, this is not realistic to every woman. This is not, if you're a person and if you're a woman who wants to stay home cooking for your husband, make sure to also consider the legal aspects of it, in your marital contract, whatever. But this place that we take of just pointing fingers and judging, and especially women like this, because trust me, I get it. I wouldn't be able to live her life, like having kids super early. That's not something that I would want for myself. I haven't done it and I wouldn't change it, for example. But I can still respect the fact that she lives her life the way that she wants to live her life. Even though so many people judge her, and even though we try to diminish everything that she does because it's not good enough, it's not progressive enough, right? I feel like we have this idea that everything that resembles what's considered conservative, it's outdated and should be, should just go away. But I think with women, that just reinforces the narrative that women need to be this one thing. And if they're not this one thing, which is what's considered the quote unquote right way of living, then they're being just controlled by men. They're just being like, no, if the lady wants to cook for her husband, she should be able to do it without having to, you know, being completely judged by so many people. So I feel like by completely trying to reject this box that we think that everyone puts women in, we're reinforcing the box. Like, I don't know. I think everyone should just do whatever the fuck they want to do. And it was good to see Nara Smith talking about her life, her choices, and honestly, good for her. Anyway, let's let's now move on to another topic that has really been on my mind this week, which is Tyler the Creator. Okay, next time I feel like I have to do a better job connecting the dots, and I'm going to shut up about not connecting the dots because it's starting to get a little annoying. But let's talk about Tyler the Creator for a second. I watched an interview this week of Tyler for, not interview, an AMA, like an Ask Me Anything for Instagram. And if you've never seen, even if you're like, oh, I don't like Tyler the Creator, I don't know who Tyler the Creator is, stay on the video, okay? Because you don't have to. You don't have to take away some important insights from what I'm going to share. But Tyler the Creator, for those who don't know him, he is a rapper. Yeah, not a rapper. Okay, let's call it, like, he's an artist. Okay, not just a rapper. He's an artist. He is a creator, as his name says. So he's created. He has a fashion brand. He has his music project. He's been on a band. He has done like commercials, cartoons. What else? He's even like created, I think, like bed sheets. You know what I'm saying? Like, this guy creates anything and everything. And I love to hear him talk. because it's always very inspiring. He's a person who really trusts his ability to create and the things that he likes, which I think is something hard to find. Someone who's that confident around what they make and what they like. So I always try to watch this Ask Me Anything roundtables because he does quite a few of those, which I also think is very awesome because sometimes it's just like students, sometimes it's like creators that have just started in the market and things like that. So I think it's always very valuable. And this particular AMA with Instagram was with a bunch of different creators, different types of different markets. So there are like hairstylists, there were musicians, there were interior designers, just, creative community in different aspects. And I listed 9 points that I wrote down because I'm telling you, like when I listen to this man talk, I'm like, okay, let me grab my notebook. Let me write down some of the main takeaways because it is inspiring. You watch it and you're like, okay, I can do anything after you watch it. But oh my gosh. Sorry, I thought my phone was gonna die. But let's continue here with Tyler the Creator. I really enjoyed some of the points that he responded or the answers that he gave to these creators. The first thing is this chick was like this chick. I don't, oh my god, this is so fun. I just pause here a second. One thing that is really funny about living in a country that and speaking like living in a foreign country and speaking your second language is that your vocabulary is not what you learn in like in my case English classes, right? It's not what you learn in the books, but it's the people you spend time with. So for me, my vocabulary is my fiance's. So everything he says, I just repeat, like I just for the day to day, you just start building, those words. But like I would never say this chick said this chick said that. But I think I don't know. It's funny. Sometimes I catch myself saying things that I'm like, what is this? Anyway, but this girl said she was talking about the fact that she's a skateboarder actually, and she was saying that she really likes to do this what do you call it, like these um I don't know, these things in skateboarding. And sometimes she's like, oh, I don't know how people are going to see these, if they're going to judge me, but then I watch the videos and I'm like, this is so awesome, this is so cool. And he says something that is so simple, but I think it's so important, and I want to expand on it with my own opinions, which is he says you have to make things for you first. So he says, as long as when you're watching it later, you're like, this is freaking awesome, then you're good. Right. And even with this podcast, I keep thinking about this. Like right now, I'm getting like full transparency. I'm getting a little bothered by the way that I'm recording this because there is no structure. But at the same time, I'm having a blast. So even if people don't listen to it, it's been 43 minutes that I'm talking about random topics. Even if not a lot of people listen to this full episode right now, I'm having a blast. And we also need these types of creative processes to find ourselves and to also find what we like and go from there. But what I want to say about make things for you first is that a lot of times I feel like we think, what do people need? What are people gonna like? What are people gonna enjoy? What's the market looking for? And while I do think there's value on this, especially if you're a person who's like, I want to create a business, I want to create a company that solves problems, and I want to solve whatever is needed right now or whatever I see, whatever my research shows that people need right now, and then I'm going to go from there. I think that when you do something that you were not excited about at the end of the day, I don't think you can go too far because that thing starts to become a bit unbearable. But also, I don't think you share your potentials in your you don't share your powers and you don't share what you're really good at if you're not doing something that you enjoy first, especially when it comes to the creative work and that. So I think sometimes we try to be selfless in that sense, but I think creating is about being selfish in a way of What do I enjoy? What do I have to share? What is something that I have that I have a lot of and I can share with the world? What is something, like this? How can I contribute to the conversation based on what I, think I have to add? So I think it's beautiful when you think of others and you should think of others. And if your work, at the end of the day, like if your work doesn't resonate with other people, then you don't even have, that like that work is nothing but just a hobby. But don't skip the part that you have to like these things first, that you have to make these things for you first. Like make something that you would like to consume, make something that you would enjoy. The second thing, and he always talks about this, and I love the way that he really means it. He says, you have to stand on your stuff and stand by what you believe and stand by what you like. And you have to be your first supporter. It's really funny how many times when we're talking about something that matter to us and something that we enjoy doing, we talk about them in a way of almost instantly apologizing or justifying the fact that it's not perfect or it's not this or it's not that or people are not going to understand. So you don't talk about something that matter to you with excitement. You don't say, yeah, I have this podcast and I talk about, life and what being an adult means. And I talk with awesome people and we have conversations around all sorts of topics and I love it and it's amazing. You say, yeah, I have this podcast, but I just started it, so it's not really popular yet, and because I'm just getting started, I'm still not super comfortable with the camera, so I'm still working on it. And I don't know, sometimes I feel like I'm not interviewing as many people as I like, but I like it. I like the podcast. Like this is how you talk about yourself, and I say this because this is how I talk about me as well, and we have to be very careful with the words that we choose when we're talking about something that matters to us. Once you own something that matters to you and something that you like and you stand by it, you're also going to see how people's perceptions of you and what you do change because you're so certain, you're standing by what you believe. You're so firm in that it's contagious. They're like, "Oh, this person loves doing what they're doing." Or I trust this person to continue to do this and transform this in a way that's gonna, continue to grow. So we have to start owning the things that we want, the people that we are, and what matters to us. If we also want to earn other people's respect. Because if you're the person who is talking against yourself, who is selling against yourself, who is already apologizing or justifying why something's not perfect, like, no, if you're doing this, then you can be sure that this is what other people are going to do as well when they see your work. So there's a beautiful thing about looking at someone and seeing how passionate they are about what they do, but most importantly, how much they own that passion. It's beautiful. It's awesome. So he always talks about this, like stand on your own stuff. And it's funny because this girl she was talking about, I don't remember what it was exactly, but she said that she makes music that is inspired by this type of genre. Not genre, I think. It's like just, music from, I don't know, the 70s. I don't remember. Okay. So, but she says, oh, just like this corny type of music. And then Tyler was like, why is it corny? He was pissed. He's like, why is it corny? Why'd you use that word? Why, like, he kept challenging her on that. And he's like, first of all, I don't like that you said corny because I also like that music. And I don't think it's corny at all. But number two, you have to be careful with your choice of words. And you have to stand by what you like and what you believe, you know? So if you don't stand by what you believe, why would someone else believe you? Or also find something awesome and cool if you don't find that yourself and you don't own that yourself, right? So I really loved it. And then number three, he says, and I really love this one because I've seen so many artists talk about this. He's like, put ideas out. Don't try to be good. Like, don't create with the goal of being good. Just put ideas out. And he talks about how he creates, and this is actually the next point that I wrote down, but they kind of go together. He talks about how he creates as a child, but he edits like a scientist. And I like this a lot. And it goes back to the putting ideas out. We are so concerned about things being good and instantly good, right? So today I just decided that I want to do something new and I expect that I'm going to excel on that thing day one. And every single day of my life, by the moment that I start doing it, I have to excel in it. And everything has to be great, has to be good. But this is so crazy because not only does it take time for us to develop that process and actually start creating things that show and are in alignment with what we want to put out to the world, but also in order for you to get to the good stuff, you have to just let all the juices flow and the bad stuff come out as well. I remember, I think it was Ed Sheeran talked about this once, how once he writes songs, and Ed, keep me honest here, my love. I think it was you who said it, but I don't remember. I think it was. But he's like, I write every day and I write whatever. Like, I don't care if it's bad. I don't care if it's bad. I just write because even if it's bad, like just by putting it out, I make up space for the good stuff to come out as well. Right. So we're so concerned about, oh, is this good? Is this bad? Just create. Just create. Create like a child. And then you add it like a scientist. And what he means by that is, yeah, especially if you're making this professionally and you're trying to make money off of it, or someone else invested money in you. So you also have to have that business mindset in a way. And like this, but when you're create like a child, someone who doesn't care if it's perfect. They just want to do it. They just want to let their emotions out. They just want to give form to an idea, to something that's in their hearts, their minds, whatever. So don't worry about it being too good. And the fifth point, and I love this one. I've been saying I love this one. I love this one. But this one I think is extremely important. He says, you have to let people know who you are. This girl said that she's a hair stylist, and she was saying that she was having a hard time showing to people that she wasn't too junior, like too what's the word? Like juvenile. She's like, oh, people see my work and people just assume that it's very juvenile and they don't give me opportunities that are more aligned to what I can do and what I want to do. So she was saying basically and asking him, what could she do to change that? So that people would see her for who she is and that people would see her work for what it is and what she can do. And he responded with that. He said, you let people know who you are. And the reason that I love that, and the reason that I kept thinking about it over the next few days after I watched the AMA, is for two main reasons. Number one, sometimes we think that just by being and just because we know something about us, that it's obvious to everybody else. But people know what you show. People know what you say. People don't know what's, in your heart. People don't know what you know about you. You have to remember that when you interact with others, what they know of you is what you show, consciously or subconsciously, or intentionally or unintentionally, right? So sometimes we get frustrated because we're like, oh, this person is not seeing me for who I am. Okay, but what are you showing? And are you even connected with the reality that you have to show it in the first place, right? People are not going to know who you are just by, you knowing what you know about yourself. And then the second reason why I think this is really important is that by knowing so, we also have to understand that some people are not going to see it in the first place. Some people are not going to see it with the way that you chose to show yourself. So you have to reinvent yourself over and over and think of different strategies and thinking of different ways that you can convey a certain message about yourself. So that's the moment that you have to put your ego aside and be like, yeah, people don't see me for who I am. Now it's up to me to do this, and I have to start over and try it over again. And sometimes you're in setting and in a group that people already know who you are, and then you move groups and then people no longer know who you are. So it doesn't matter. You have this false idea that, okay, it's clear to others who I am, but if who you are is only validated, by the group in that moment, when you change groups, that group is not going to know. So you're not going to no longer be validated for that. You have to go out there and you have to create that image for yourself again. So he talked about how when he used to be seen as just a rapper, he realized that, like, okay, I have to start showing people and telling people who I am. And again, he's not just a rapper, as I mentioned in the beginning of this segment. So he put on the next album cover, he put like written, edited, or mastered, and like what else? Like all the create, I don't know. I forgot the words, but like everything that album was created by him, from the lyrics to the mixing of the tracks, all of that, the production, everything was done by Tyler. So he put that in the cover. He's like, this is me. Okay, I have to start telling people who I am. And then he says, from that point on, people started understanding that, okay, this guy's not just this one thing. So he kept saying, let people know who you are. You let people know who you are. You know, I know it's sometimes it's annoying to be this place. Like, I wanted to be recognized by who I know I am, but the reality is that you have to tell people who you are. And it's annoying, I know, but it is what it is. And then another thing he said is be okay with looking crazy and be delusional, right? So this is the be delusional. I think it's so it connects a lot with the manifesting thing that I talked about. But sometimes, my love, you do have to be delusional. People are gonna be, people are gonna think that what's possible is just something that's within their reach right now. And if you're a person who dreams big, who thinks that crazy things can happen, sometimes they're gonna look at you and be like, you're crazy, and you have to be okay with it. You have to be okay with it. That goes back to standing by what you believe, what you want. You have to be okay with looking like a clown, looking like, looking stupid, looking delusional, looking crazy. You know, people's people have their own limiting beliefs, and it's always going to be like that. You know, each person grew up a certain way. Each person sees life a certain way. So they're going to have their own limiting beliefs. You don't have to, first of all, have the same limiting beliefs. You don't have to agree that, yeah, this is life. This is what I can do in life or what I cannot do in life because someone else is telling me that this is what's possible. But also, you can dare to like think bigger and dream bigger. And I feel like sometimes when you're delusional, the world starts to shape around your idea of what's possible. So many times in my life, I've been through and I've done things and I've been through things that I was like, I'm gonna do this and this is gonna happen. And people are like, no, it's not gonna happen. This is gonna happen. This is not. And then once it's done, they're like, oh, I always believed in you. But this is not about other people because again, each person has their own beliefs and that's fine. It's more so about us being okay with the idea of just looking that way, looking crazy. That's not a bad thing necessarily. It's not a bad thing to not be understood in certain things. Sometimes you know, it is, it's part of it. It's part of, not sometimes, always, it's part of chasing something that might look impossible for other people. But at the end of the day, you know that you can do it. So, yeah, be okay with looking crazy. Then the other point he says is you never know who's looking. He talked about the fact that he saw this mirror online and he bought this mirror because he thought it was really cool. And he's like, I don't even know how that mirror showed up to me. I don't even know how I found that mirror. And it's funny because the guy that the designer that created that mirror was in the room with him for that AMA. So it was the guy was there, but like random guy. And Tyler found this mirror and he loved it and he purchased it. So he just reminded everyone like, in the social media age, you don't know who's watching. So, in my opinion, it's like if you don't know who's watching, two things. You have to take your work seriously because it might get to someone that, might change your life by watching you or sharing what you're doing. And number two, we might as well just be ourselves. We might as well be really authentic and do a good job like showing who we are because maybe, you know, someone's going to see it and they're going to connect with you. So you might as well just be who you are. So I like that a lot. And then last but not least, he talked about intention and feeling. So someone was like, "Do you ever create with intention and feeling?" And he's like, "Always. I always create with intention and feeling because like I said, I create as a child, and a child, that's what they have. They have feelings. They have lots of feelings that sometimes they can't handle. They don't know how to handle. And their intention is just to put these feelings out somehow. So that's how I create. And I think that, and he even says, like, when I create a certain song, I know that, oh, it's going to be played in this place or to be, heard by these people. So I don't care if so and so doesn't like this music or this album or this track because it's created for X, Y, and Z. And I think intention and feeling, but I'll talk about intention for a second, is so important. And we move throughout life without intention. Sometimes, yeah, you just want to, I'm just gonna, see where life takes me. And that's completely fine. That's part of finding yourself. But I feel like we don't put enough work and time into understanding our intention and gravitating around that intention. And the moment that you have clarity on where you want to go or where you want to make or whatever, then the noise shuts off. The noise also shuts down. I don't know the word here, but there's less noise as well because you're so connected to your intention that you start worrying about everything else that you're losing, and you start investing more on following the path that you set yourself to follow. So I think it's very important, even in small things, like you're going to a meeting. Oh, this is my intention with this meeting. This right here is my intention. Sometimes you go, it's too freestyle. Oh, I'm just going to show up and that's it. Oh, my intention is to express this particular feeling. Oh, my intention is to get X, Y, and Z. My intention is, that's it. When you're talking to people, and I'm gonna say one last thing here before we wrap up, because I'm getting annoyed. It's been not annoyed, but I'm getting like, what's the word here? I don't know. It's been an hour, and I'm like, okay, I'm talking too much. People are not gonna want to listen. Look at this. This is how we are. But um, for example, when you go talk to someone and do like networking, and I want to have someone on the show to talk about networking as well. I've been talking about it on TikTok quite a lot, but when you want to network with somebody, like what's your intention in talking to that person? I fucking hate when someone wants to network and they say, "Tell me everything that I need to know or to do about X, Y, and Z." Like that's lazy. What is your intention by talking to that person? What do you think they can teach you? What is it that you're actually looking for? Like you have to start moving in life with more intention, and like guiding yourself in your life. And yeah, sometimes you're going to be super lost, but always try to go back to that intention. So now to finish, let's talk a little bit about networking. Because I've been recently, someone told me, and this is why I want to have someone on the podcast as well to talk about networking. But recently, someone told me it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. And I know networking is such a, I think everyone hates networking, or most people, because we always think, oh, but I don't have anything to add. Oh, but it feels fake. It feels unnatural. It feels like, not unnatural, that's not the word, but like it feels fake, right? And we don't like to put ourselves out there. We don't like to, I don't know, like you're in a position of, you're talking to someone who maybe has more experience than you, and you don't want to feel like, oh, I'm dumb, and I have nothing to add. But I really agree with what this person said. Not that what you know doesn't matter, because it does, but if you don't show what you know to the right people, or if you don't have the right people to see what you do know, then you don't get to many places, and you don't get as far as you could. And I think there are people who are very good at navigating those relationships and those, networking opportunities, while others wait more passively. But we do, if you want to, become whatever you want to become, or if you want to get to whatever you want to get to, it is very much about the people that you know. And the earlier that you start to be used to being in that position, the better or the farther I think you can go. So I think that I talked about intention briefly, having the intention, know what you want to know, but also it's, I think it's a lot about understanding that sometimes, because we think, oh, I have nothing to add. I've talked to people who are very high up in very big companies, and they're like, I just appreciate the opportunity to mentor. Like objectively, you're not going to add anything to that person's life in that particular regard, right? So if the person is teaching you about something, or if they're sharing something of their experience around that, you're not going to add anything in that sense. But sometimes what you add is the opportunity from that person to mentor someone, is to give that person excitement to see that a newer generation is really passionate about what they do. Sometimes what you give to that person is a conversation about something completely random that comes up in your talk with that particular individual. And a conversation that they needed because they were having a bad day. Like, you don't know how you can add to somebody else's life. You have to obviously think about, okay, how can I add value to this person? Like, thinking about it is important, but sometimes the way that you add value is something that you didn't even think about. So I think the best you can do is to be extremely prepared because you don't want to waste the person's time. Extremely prepared, intentional, respectful, but don't assume that just because you know less than them, you have nothing to add. So I'm not going to talk too much about networking in this episode. I think it's time to wrap up, but I do want to have another moment in another episode to just talk about networking. All right, my friends. All of that being said, I know this was kind of it's a new format, but I liked it. I liked it. I had a blast. We'll see what other topics we can talk about on the next one. What comes up this week? This is going to be a very busy week for me. There's a lot going on at work, and I have two interviews this week to record. So I'm very excited. Two people. I mean, one is one person, the other one is more than one person. And it's just people that I admire, and I think you guys are going to like it. So I'll see you on the next episode at the Adults Table.